You've been doing the work, you've been reading the books, setting the boundaries, trying to meditate, and attempting to slow down. But instead of feeling peaceful, light, and clear, you feel completely exhausted. Your body feels like it is made of lead. Your emotions are balanced on a razor's edge, where a minor inconvenience, a dropped set of keys, a gentle delay, a brief misunderstanding can send you into a wave of quiet tears or a sudden flash of heat. You look at yourself in the mirror, carrying a heavy, fog-like fatigue behind your eyes, and you think, I am doing all this self-care, so why do I feel like I am falling apart? Why do I feel worse? If this is familiar, if your attempt to heal has left you feeling more raw, tired, and sensitive than you were when you were just running on autopilot, what you are experiencing is not a regression. It is not a sign that your efforts are useless or that your mind is failing you. According to Dr. Gabor Maté's extensive clinical insights on somatic healing and stress, a healing nervous system often looks and feels like a collapsing one. When a body that has been wound tight for decades finally begins to let go, the transition is not smooth. It is turbulent. It feels like a breakdown, but it is actually the beginning of a breakthrough. Until you understand the biology of this transition, you will mistake your body's recovery process for a systemic failure. You will look at your exhaustion and your sensitivity and think you are getting weaker, when in reality you are finally becoming safe enough to feel how tired you've always been. This is not a journey into how you are failing. This is an invitation to understand the profound, chaotic, and beautiful language of a nervous system that is finally learning to heal. For years we have operated under a flawed definition of mental and emotional health. We have been taught to believe that a healthy person is someone who is always productive, always calm, always rational, and completely unaffected by the world around them. We treat symptoms like chronic fatigue, sudden emotional sensitivity, and the inability to tolerate stress as biological errors. We ask ourselves, why can't I just keep it together? But Gabor Maté's trauma-informed work consistently reveals that our symptoms are not errors. They are adaptations. From a trauma-informed perspective, our nervous system's primary job is not to make us happy or peaceful. Its primary job is to keep us alive. When we grow up in environments where our emotional safety is compromised, where we must constantly anticipate a parent's volatile mood, perform to earn love, or suppress our own feelings to keep the peace, our nervous system enters a state of chronic adaptation. It activates its sympathetic survival responses: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Your body learns to run on adrenaline. It tightens your muscles, suppresses your digestive and immune systems, and shuts down your awareness of pain so you can keep moving, keep pleasing, and keep surviving. As Gabor Maté often points out, the body remembers what the mind was forced to forget. You lived in that survival state for so long that your brain began to treat hypervigilance as your normal baseline. But when you finally begin to heal, when you leave the toxic relationship, find a safe career, step out of the chaos, or begin to offer yourself genuine compassion, something profound happens. Your nervous system looks around and realizes, for the first time in your life, that the war might actually be over. And when a soldier realizes the war is over, they do not immediately go out and celebrate. They collapse. Let us look at 5 signs that your nervous system is finally healing, not failing. And the 5th sign is the deepest, most confusing transition you will ever experience. Before we reveal the first sign, consider this. Many people give up on their healing journey at the exact moment their body begins to repair itself, simply because they mistake restorative rest for physical decline. The first sign that your nervous system is healing is a sudden, deep, and seemingly endless exhaustion. You might wake up after 9 hours of sleep, feeling as though you haven't slept at all. Your limbs feel heavy, as if you are moving through water. You find yourself wanting to nap in the middle of the afternoon, and your old drive to constantly clean, organize, and accomplish things has completely evaporated. You feel lazy, unmotivated, and deeply frustrated with your lack of energy. But here is what most people miss. According to Gabor Maté, this profound fatigue is not a sign of sickness, it is the let-down effect. When you were in survival mode, your adrenal glands were constantly pumping cortisol and adrenaline through your bloodstream to keep you functional despite your unexpressed stress. Your system was borrowing energy from your future self just to survive the present. The moment your brain registers that you are finally in a safe space, it stops producing those high-level stress hormones. The adrenaline mask slips off, and when the adrenaline drops, you are left facing the raw, unfiltered truth of how exhausted your body has actually been for the last 10, 20, or 30 years. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means your mind learned to protect you by overriding your fatigue when you had to be strong, and now it is safe enough to let you rest. That heavy concrete fatigue, that is not weakness. That is intelligence in service of survival, finally giving your body permission to enter the deep parasympathetic state of cellular repair. You are not becoming lazy. You are paying back a decades-old sleep debt that your survival once forced you to ignore. And this is where it gets deeper, because as your body begins to rest, the emotional walls you built to protect yourself also begin to crumble. The second sign that your nervous system is healing is that you experience sudden, intense waves of grief, anger, or sadness that seem to come out of absolutely nowhere. You could be watching a harmless commercial, washing the dishes, or driving down a quiet street, and suddenly your throat tightens. A deep, heavy sadness washes over you, or a sudden surge of heat and anger rises into your chest. You look around, confused, searching for a logical reason for your tears or your rage. Because there is no immediate trigger in your present life, you assume you are losing your mind or becoming emotionally unstable. From a trauma-informed perspective, however, this is a beautiful sign of clearing. When you were a child or when you were surviving a difficult period in your adult life, your system did not have the safety or the space to process the pain of what was happening to you. If you had cried, screamed, or expressed your anger, you might have lost your connection to your caregivers, your job, or your community. So your nervous system stored those emotions in your physical tissue, your muscles, and your fascia. But the body remembers what the mind was forced to forget. Now that you are doing the work to create safety in your life, those frozen, stored emotional energies are finally starting to thaw. They are rising to the surface because your body finally trusts that you are strong enough, mature enough, and safe enough to feel them without being destroyed by them. Not because something was wrong with you, because something was wrong with what happened to you, and your body is finally cleaning house. Those unprovoked tears are not a sign of depression. They are the physical release of old, trapped grief. That sudden anger is not a sign of a hostile personality. It is your healthy boundary system finally waking up and saying, what happened to me was not okay. Before we explore how this emotional release alters your senses, there is an anticipation you must hold. As your body begins to feel these deeper emotions, the external world will suddenly feel much louder than it ever did before. The third sign of a healing nervous system is a temporary, heightened sensitivity to sensory input and environmental stimulation. You find yourself suddenly overwhelmed by grocery stores. The bright fluorescent lights feel like an assault on your eyes. The sound of multiple people talking at once, the hum of the refrigerator, or the aggressive bass from a passing car makes your skin crawl. You feel an intense urge to escape crowded spaces, quiet your environment, and spend time in low-lit rooms. You might worry that you are developing an anxiety disorder, or that your ability to handle the normal world is deteriorating. According to Dr. Gabor Maté, this intense sensitivity is actually a sign that your capacity for dissociation is wearing off. When you are in a chronic state of survival, your brain protects you by numbing your senses. It dials down your awareness of your physical body and your environment, so that you don't have to feel the full weight of the stress you are enduring. You become slightly detached, slightly numb, slightly blind to the world around you. You think you are handling the stress, but in reality, you are just dissociated from it. As you heal, your sensory gates begin to open up again. Your brain is turning the volume dial of your senses back to its natural, default position. But because you have been numb for so long, the normal world feels incredibly loud, bright, and chaotic to your newly awakened system. This is not a flaw. This is the return of your vitality. You are not failing to cope. You are simply learning to feel again. Your sensitivity is the evidence that your body is no longer willing to go numb to survive. It is telling you, with exquisite clarity, when an environment is too loud, too fast, or too toxic for your well-being. And as your senses return, you will notice a strange, new hesitation in the way you interact with others, a sign that most people mistake for insecurity. The fourth sign that your nervous system is healing is that you experience a quiet gap between a trigger and your reaction. In the past, your reactions were instantaneous. If someone criticized you, you immediately became defensive or began to apologize profusely. If someone sent a cold email, you instantly fired back a response or spiraled into a day of panic. You operated on a system of pure lightning-fast reflex. But now you notice something strange. Someone says something passive-aggressive to you, and instead of instantly reacting, you just sit there. You feel a physical sensation in your chest, but your mind remains oddly quiet. You don't know what to say. You might even feel a bit slow, quiet, or unresponsive in conversation. You might worry that you're losing your edge, your quick wit, or your ability to defend yourself. But psychologists have observed that this slowness is actually the birth of human freedom. When your nervous system is locked in trauma responses, your reactions are controlled by the amygdala, the ancient emotional part of the brain that bypasses conscious thought to keep you safe. There is no time to think. There is only time to survive. When your system begins to heal, the neural pathways between your emotional brain and your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reflection, choice, and presence, begin to repair. The gap you are experiencing is your nervous system moving out of automatic reactivity and into conscious response. That is not weakness. That is intelligence in service of survival, finally giving way to the intelligence of conscious choice. You are no longer a machine that prints a reaction every time a button is pushed. You are becoming a conscious human being who has the space to feel a trigger, recognize it as an echo of the past, and choose a different path in the present. And this brings us to the fifth and deepest sign of all. It is the one most people refuse to see as progress because it initially feels like a profound, empty loss. The fifth sign of a healing nervous system is a quiet, unsettling emptiness that your mind mistakes for boredom, depression, or a loss of passion. Your life has finally become quiet. There are no major dramas in your family. Your job is stable. Your partner is consistent. But instead of feeling ecstatic, you feel this flat, neutral, and slightly hollow emptiness. You look at your quiet life and find yourself thinking, is this it? Am I depressed? Why don't I feel excited about anything anymore? You might even feel a strange, unconscious urge to start a minor conflict, take on too much work, or look for problems just to feel something familiar. According to Dr. Gabor Maté, this is the final, most challenging stage of nervous system recovery, the detox from adrenaline addiction. If you grew up in a chaotic, unpredictable, or high-pressure environment, your biology associated excitement and love with high levels of stress hormones. To your young system, high cortisol was proof of life. Anxiety was your baseline. When you finally achieve peace, your brain looks at the flat baseline of a healthy, regulated nervous system and translates the absence of anxiety as boredom or apathy. Your body is going through withdrawal from its favorite drug, stress. The quiet emptiness you feel is not depression. It is the blank canvas of a regulated nervous system. It is the transition stage where your brain must learn how to produce dopamine and joy from quiet, stable, and gentle things rather than from the dramatic highs and lows of survival. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means your body is learning how to live without a crisis. That emptiness is not a void to be filled with new chaos. It is a sacred, quiet space where your authentic self can finally begin to grow. You are not failing. You are transforming. You are not a broken machine that needs to be forced back into productivity, speed, and numbness. You are a living, biological system that has spent a lifetime carrying the invisible weight of your survival. Of course your healing is messy. Of course it feels like a collapse. You are asking a body that has been running a marathon for 20 years to finally sit down, catch its breath, and feel its wounds. According to Dr. Maté, the deepest act of healing is not a technique. It is a shift in how we relate to our own discomfort. It is the transition from wanting to fix ourselves to wanting to know ourselves. When you see your exhaustion as recovery, your sensitivity as awakening, and your emptiness as peace, the internal war finally ends. You stop fighting your body's natural rhythm. You let yourself be tired. You let yourself be quiet. You let yourself feel the raw, tender edge of your own existence. This is slow, sacred, and deeply courageous work. You are not just changing your mind, you are changing your biology. You are teaching your cells, your heart, and your breath that it is finally safe to let go. And from that safe place, a new kind of life begins. Not a life of constant high-energy performance, but a life of deep presence, genuine joy, and unshakable peace. The same nervous system that adapted to survive the storm is now learning how to live in the quiet sunshine. You are not failing. You are just learning how to come home. Which of these 5 signs of healing felt the most familiar or perhaps the most misunderstood in your own life? If conversations like this feel valuable to you, consider subscribing. This channel is a space for those who are ready to stop managing their symptoms and start honoring the deep biological stories of their lives. Self-understanding will not rewrite your past, but it will change how your past lives inside your body today, and that is where your freedom begins. The most confusing part of healing is that it often feels like falling apart before it feels like coming together. If you recognized yourself in these signs, which one are you currently navigating, and how can you offer your body more permission to go through this transition today? Healing is not failing why you feel worse. Nervous system recovery signs. Why does healing your nervous system feel like a total collapse? In this deeply validating video inspired by the psychological philosophy of Dr. Gabor Maté, we explore why recovering from chronic stress, trauma, and hypervigilance often makes us feel exhausted, overly sensitive, and emotionally raw. Discover how your body's survival adaptations, like running on adrenaline and dissociating from pain, mask your true state of depletion. We break down 5 profound signs that your nervous system is actually healing, not failing. Endless somatic fatigue, the letdown effect. Unexplained emotional releases, heightened sensory sensitivity, the development of a conscious gap before reacting, and the unsettling quiet of adrenaline withdrawal. Learn to stop fighting your body's recovery process and start understanding it as a biological return to safety.